Since I've not been seeing those Visit Jerusalem adverts so much anymore, I need a new holiday destination, and I chose Greece. It's got groove, it's got meaning, it's a beautiful place, and nowhere is it more evident than its capital, Athens. The city of Athens is steeped in history. There's loads of it, you can't move for it. Some over there, some over there. Look, there's some over there. All over the gaff, all over the gaff. Athens played a major role in some of history's most interesting periods, like the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. And it's brought to the world some of history's most important geezers, like Plato, Socrates, Symmachus. I was there for 3 days in October. Let's get into it. Yes, you heard me right, October. This was the weather in October. While it was pissing it down in England, the weather in Athens was beautiful. Now, if you like cats, Athens is the place for you. The city is home to 2 million stray cats. These geezers are everywhere. They've even got celebrity cats, one being the Titan cat, a geezer famous for his large size. The place where you can find this geezer is Ragova, Olive Grove. He's even on Google Maps, he's that big. I went on a safari to find him, and eventually I found the geezer. And he didn't seem that pleased to see me, so I went off. Now, while you happen to be in the area, you might as well check out Plaka, which is a beautiful neighbourhood that is referred to as the neighbourhood of the gods, and you can see why, with winding streets that are amazing to look at, the highlight being Miniskilos Street. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This place is lined with cafes and restaurants where you can take a break and look at the amazing scenery. I went to this restaurant here, which again I'm not going to try and pronounce, and I had one of the local dishes of grilled shrimp. It was lovely. Oh, I definitely recommend it. Very nice. Now, in Athens there are some great sites that you can see for free, like Hadrian's Arch or Socrates Prison. This is where for years people believed the great philosopher was imprisoned after being found guilty of corrupting the minds of the youth and impiety, refusing to worship the divine. For this he was sentenced to death by drinking poison in 399 BC. These days you'd get a YouTube strike for a similar offence, but anyway, it turns out this wasn't where he was actually imprisoned, but it's still a nice sight to see, and it was where the Greeks hid many antiques during World War II, so it is historically significant. However, while you can have a great time here for free, I do recommend buying the Athens City Pass, because you get to see some proper cool shit for that. Let's start with Hadrian's Library, which was built by the Roman Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD. In its day, it housed 17,000 books, in addition to a garden, works of art, and 3 churches that were added to it during the Byzantine Empire. The library is no longer operational, obviously. There's no books there. Thank fuck. Imagine the late fees. It's still a beautiful sight to walk around and put yourself in the place of the great minds of all time who walked throughout this place over the years, discussing and teaching great ideas. And if you don't fancy that, you can also see some cats. Nice geezers. There was a turtle as well, actually. It was randomly having a mosey about, which was good fun. Well, it was at first, and then I discovered a few more turtles, and I don't know what was going on here, but it didn't look good. So if turtle sodomy isn't your thing, next to Hadrian's Library is Moneri Square, a lovely place teeming with life day and night, which can be a lovely place to hear some live music and get something to eat or drink in one of the restaurants or rooftop bars. No idea what these geezers were doing, but moving on. Moneri Square isn't the only place to see buskers, they're everywhere. And unlike London, where it's just geezers with an acoustic guitar doing Ed Sheeran songs, in Athens, buskers come in all forms, playing a multitude of different instruments: guitars, drums, flutes, accordions. I swear I even saw a geezer playing a theremin. The dog's not really contributing much to this band here, he's sort of like the Bez of the group. At possibly 5,000 years old, Athens is one of the oldest cities on earth, and central to the city was the Agora, which in Greek means market. It's also where the term agoraphobia derives from. Yeah, interesting. However, there is nothing to be scared of here. Built in the 1st century BC, the Roman Agora was an open marketplace for trade, and it's pretty cool to look at. However, the best Agora is the ancient Agora. Here you can get a real sense of what life was like in the 6th century BC when it was built. It's adorned with monuments, and you can see how the streets were constructed, where the ancient Greeks met, kept records, where they worshipped, posted notices, and where they did all kinds of bollocks. Probably the most visually stunning part of the Agora is the Stow of Attalos. Again, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Stow of Attalos.
Close enough. This was built in the 2nd century BC by Attalus II. Well, I mean, he probably didn't build it personally, he probably got some geezers to build it for him, but anyway, he gifted the building to the city of Athens after the education he received by the Greek philosopher Carneades. Today it houses a nice museum and is full of artefacts. It's pretty interesting, I definitely recommend it. I must point out that this building is actually a reconstruction, same with the Church of the Holy Apostles, but the Temple of Hephaestus,
the Temple of Hephaestus.
This temple over here is pretty much as it was built in the 5th century BC. It's absolutely fantastic. Something less fantastic is Greek Netflix, which is basically just like English Netflix. Imagine getting a VPN for this. You'd be proper disappointed. They did have The Godfather though.
My fortune.
Yeah.
And I raised.
Another fantastic site is the Panathenaic Stadium. The stadium is jammed full of history, playing host to the Panathenaic Games back in the day and holding the first modern Olympic Games in 1896 and again in 2004. It didn't host the original Olympics though, as that was in Olympia, although the Panathenaic Stadium did host Culture Club in 1985 as part of the Rock the Athens Festival. So you know, who's the real winner? Anyway, to actually go into the stadium, you have to pay. So I was off. Fuck me, that geezer's aged well. Right opposite the Panathenaic Stadium, you'll find the Botanical Garden, which is a proper botanical garden. It's much better than the one I went to in Hamburg. The Botanical Garden is on its way to Athens City Square, Syntagma Square. Named after the first king of Greece, this is a lovely place to just rest, chill out, listen to some live music and buy a knob-shaped bottle opener. Just above the Syntagma Square is the old Royal Palace, otherwise known as the Hellenic Parliament. Outside it stands the Monument of the Unknown Soldier, a dedication to those who've died for Greece in the field of battle. This is guarded by the Evzones, again probably pronouncing that wrong. These are members of the Presidential Guard, which is a very prestigious honour. They are required to stand undistracted, motionless for an hour, and then are changed out every hour. However, the changing of the guard ceremony happens on Sunday at 11 AM. Note your video's not buffering, they do this changing of the guard ceremony in slow motion. It's believed that they do this to aid blood circulation of the guards. I'd advise getting there a bit early, as this place will be flooded with tourists, so if you want a good spot, yeah, get there ahead of time. Now let's talk about the food of Athens, which is fucking lovely. Grilled shrimp and moussaka are two traditional Greek dishes that are absolutely amazing, but for me the highlight was gyros and souvlaki. I also recommend the skeptasi.
Skepas tea.
Yeah, that. Which is just great. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, it tasted so good I had to lay back and have a cigarette afterwards. Oh, it was amazing. If you thought the meals were nice, even better than that is the desserts. Just walking around the Acropolis area is enough to give you diabetes. Oh, the desserts are heavenly. While this cafe here is not necessarily a dessert place, the waffles were unreal. If you like iced coffee, then try this place here. I didn't write down the name, but it should be on screen. It is absolutely unreal, and there's such a big selection. I definitely recommend it. Loukomedes is also a place that has some lovely iced coffee, and I also had their signature dish, Loukomedes. That's why they called their restaurant that. Loukomedes are basically dough balls that are covered in a topping or sauce of your choice. And you gotta try this. This is superb, superb. Now for those of you who didn't pull out, or as some call them, parents, I recommend Hans and Gretel. It's like heaven for anyone with a sweet tooth. And if you like it there, you might also like Little Kook, which is a street in Athens, which is basically like a dessert eater's paradise. It's beautifully adorned with decorations and the menu is just insane. I also recommend checking this out at night time, because if it looks this good in the day, imagine when it's all lit up. Before we get to the main event, I have to mention the Acropolis Museum. Built on an excavation site, there is so much here to see. It really puts the wonder that is the Acropolis into context, and it gives you a great insight into the significance that it holds and how it's changed throughout time. This place is 4 floors and it's included on your turbo pass, so it's definitely worth seeing. They also have a class restaurant with a lovely piano player and an outdoor area where you can get a great view of the Acropolis. So yeah, check it out, check it out. Now for the Acropolis itself, I recommend going there early, like 8 AM or 9 AM, to avoid the massive crowds. So I had an early night, after watching a bit of Greek TV. Now for the main event, the Acropolis, or more accurately called the Acropolis of Athens. Acropolis is a generic term for a settlement in the upper part of a Greek city. Its name comes from the Greek word for the highest point, akron, and the Greek word for city, polis. Just walking up to the site, you can see just how class it looks. It's all old and shit. The Acropolis itself is believed to have been inhabited for 4,000 years. However, it was in the 5th century BC where the iconic buildings that make up the Acropolis were actually built. And they were ordered to be built by the then ruler of Athens, Pericles. And what a great idea this was by Pericles. Good on you, geezer. When you enter the south slope of the Acropolis, you see one of the most famous theatres of all time, the Theatre of Dionysus.
Theatre of Dionysus.
Yep, that's probably how you say it. The theatre was built in the 6th century BC and is dedicated to the Greek god of theatre, Dionysus. He was also the Greek god of wine, pleasure and fertility. Interesting geezer. The Odeon of Herodes Atticus is also beautiful and very historic, and also probably pronounced differently.
The Odeon of Herodes Atticus.
When you walk up the main stairs of the Acropolis, you can see the majesty of the Acropolis gateway, the Propylaea. You can immediately see why so many old American geezers with walking sticks have trekked their way up here to see it. Be careful if you're going on a windy day though. When you go inside, staring at you, you'll see the Parthenon in all of its glory. The temple was built in 447 BC as a thank you for victory in the Greco-Persian Wars. Since then, it's been used as a church, a mosque, and a treasury. We also have the Temple of Nike, dedicated to the goddess Athena and the goddess Nike, the goddess of victory and decent sportswear. We also have Erectophaon, a temple primarily dedicated to the goddess Athena. An erectophon is one way to show your appreciation to a goddess, I guess. If you're in Athens, the Acropolis is definitely worth going to. You can get a real indication of the majesty of one of the world's greatest pieces of construction. It's also nice to learn that the ancient Greeks were wheelchair accessible. Yeah, even back then. Good on you geezers, good on you. Some of the things that I didn't have time to see as I was too busy eating and all of that was the view from Mount Leviticus, which looks class, the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, which seems really cool, and the Temple of Olympian Zeus, which looks like it might be cool when it's finished. Anyway, that's Athens, a really cool place, I definitely recommend it. Now there are a lot of cats that I didn't have time to include earlier on in the video, and I don't want to cat shame, so here are some of them. See you later. Please like and subscribe. You alright, geez?
Python, Pluton, Tautan, Nomoyates, Gaia, Saint